the chief digital officer for my company and also CEO of a business unit, an online business that we run. That's how I met your father, kind of through the technology world here in Chicago. But anyway, I went to Northwestern University. I studied political science, um, and really got into insurance and technology very early on, and I've just had a lot of great experiences from individual contributor roles to leadership roles to executive roles. And so happy to share any insights that might be helpful.
Okay, great. So my first question is, do you have a set of ethical principles that you use when faced with difficult questions or situations in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I would say about ethical principles is, to me, they're not necessarily, well, they're not just business related. They're sort of core principles and, ethical principles that I use, whether it's a business setting or a personal setting or a social setting. And so to me, that, by definition, a principle is something you would carry with you into whatever environment that you're in. So I think, that's important. So you sort of don't think about the world differently just because it's a business setting than you would in any other setting. Maybe that's obvious, but I feel like maybe that's not the way everybody sort of thinks. So to me, that's probably the first important principle. I think, there's so many things that go into it. And again, this might sound super simple, but for me, the most basic principle that, again, in every aspect of my life and in business, it can sometimes be hard, is just do the right thing. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. So if you sort of have that viewpoint, I think most people inherently know what the right thing is. Sometimes it's hard to do the right thing. Sometimes it's hard to verbalize that or sort of be out in front of folks. But if you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, I'm also a believer that, things sort of fall into place too. It's like it is the right thing, and people want to line up behind what's right. Things tend to sort of follow what's right. And so it kind of just creates this natural path. The other thing that it does is it's sort of empowering because a lot of times when you're faced with big, difficult decisions, you get sort of bogged down in all the implications of things and other people and what they're going to think and what they're going to say and all these things that are going to happen. But the reality is, again, you can only control what you can control. So if you can control your little piece of that chaos or this big difficult situation, you can feel good about that, and you really just you can't control everything else. So kind of control the piece that you can control. And again, I don't think that's an ethical principle necessarily, but I think it's a mindset of, in these challenging situations where your ethics are going to be your guidepost, again, that's the part you can control, is where you stand, the way that you react, and sort of feeling good about that. And the rest of it is going to be what it's going to be.
Definitely. My second question is, do you think that any particular question, decision, or situation represents a difficult ethical issue?
Um, you mean because I was a leader, was it more difficult?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so this is kind of a wishy-washy answer, but I would say Um, yes and no. Again, if you sort of go back to, regardless of the situation, whether you're a leader or not, whether it's business or social or education, if you sort of live by your principles, and for me, the most guiding principle in my life and every aspect is just do the right thing. That's pretty straightforward. I think as a leader, the interesting thing that I've learned is the more clear you are on that, and again, in every aspect of your life, but certainly, leading a family, leading my business, the more clear you are about that, people know that about you, they expect it of you, and they want to do the right thing also. It sort of sets this precedent that the people around you start to think that way, behave that way, and it becomes really comfortable for them. You've sort of paved the path. And because if you're unquestionable around those ethics, people don't bring you things that challenge it as much because they know what they're going to get. It's like no one's, people that I've worked with in particular for a couple of years aren't going to bring me these dicey situations because they know what I'm going to say. And if you don't put yourself out there as this very strong, I'm always going to do the right thing, it's like, well, maybe she would agree to this, or maybe if we did this over here, it would be okay. But it's like, no, I think when you're very clear on that, those situations take care of themselves. They never really come up. And again, it gives people around you, particularly if you're leading teams, the people behind you to have that same strength. And so it sort of has this cascading effect.
My third question, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
go ahead.
But that makes a lot of sense to like stand firm in what you believe in and you won't get asked around or pushed. You have to really just stand firm. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. And it's amazing the effect it has on others around you because it sort of empowers them a bit, I think. And it's like, and everybody wants to feel good about themselves. And it's like doing the right thing makes you feel really good. It makes you feel strong. And again, it gives you that sense of, I can control that. When in this world where there's so much you can't control, it's like, that is what you can control.
Mhm.
So, focus on that.
My third question is, have you faced any obstacles in applying your ethical principles in business situations?
Um, I don't think I've ever been directly asked or pushed to do something that I felt was, unethical. I left a job um, that was a very good job and a very lucrative job because I didn't, again, I wouldn't say it was unethical, but I think it made me uncomfortable. Um, Maybe some of the practices in dealing with clients, maybe some of the practices with, the way financials were handled. So, whether it was unethical or not, it wasn't the way that I like to operate. And it wasn't sort of up to my, maybe more up to my standards.
Mhm.
Um, and so, you know, the, that was probably the biggest career decision I ever made in my life, which was to walk away from that because I didn't feel comfortable as a leader, leading teams. I didn't feel comfortable talking to our clients because I didn't feel like I really believed, what I was going to have to say.
Mhm.
I didn't believe what I was telling my teams. I didn't believe what I was telling our customers because, um, the folks that owned our company were not doing things the way I wanted to do it. So again, whether that's ethical or not, I think that was probably the most, whether that's an ethics question, I guess, certainly was a moral question. It was sort of a belief question and sort of that do the right thing question. Like to me, it was the right thing to leave that role because I didn't want to compromise myself. I didn't want my teams to compromise themselves. I didn't want clients to not trust what they were hearing. And so I didn't feel like I could change that situation. And so, you know, so I left that job.
My last question is, do you have any advice that you could provide for me as I think about ethical issues that I may face as a young woman who will one day pursue a career?
I was thinking about that a lot, whether it's different or harder because you're a woman versus a man. Um, I don't know that if it is or not. I always struggle a little bit with like what's really a gender issue versus not. I mean, business is hard. It's hard to be a leader. It's hard to um, earn respect. It's hard to be a successful leader. Is it harder because you're a female? It could be in some situations for sure. But I think, if I take gender out of it, I guess what I would say with ethics is um, just again, really know who you are and where you stand on things and be comfortable with that and sort of wear that proudly because um, that shines through in everything that you do. And that's how you earn respect of others. You earn respect of your peers. You earn your respect of leaders if they know that they can trust you and that you're always going to do the right thing. One of the hardest things about being a leader is you want your team to employ those same ethics and values that you do. And so when leaders see that in a young person like yourself, it's like, I can trust her. You might not have to be the smartest person. You might not have to know as much as the person sitting next to you, but if I can trust you, that is 100% the person I want on my team.
Mhm.
And so I just think whether that's confidence or whether it's just approach, sort of wearing that. makes you the kind of person that other people want to work with, leaders want to entrust, things to you. And I think it's a leadership quality. People follow people that have that strong fiber or that strong persona, whatever you want to call it. And I think it does go back to ethics and principles and the way that you conduct yourself and everything that you do.
Definitely. Well, those are all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much. This has been so helpful.